Alright, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Akil Samuel, and this is an Andrew Sport and Entertainment Consultancy production dubbed I Am Him. Yes, that is the name of the show, I Am Him. And I just want to say Happy International Men's Day to all of the men of Trinidad and Tobago, the region, and the world by extension. So, you all know this was a two-day discussion. Yesterday we had day one, which was in celebration of Universal Children's Day, and we discussed the impact of music and how it's affecting the younger and future generation. And the two guys that we had on here were two artists, one by the name of Chosen. Not hearing me. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, let me go again. Hope you guys hearing me now. Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me now. Alright. So, again, I would say good afternoon to one and all. My name is Akil Samuel. Just give me a second here. Alright, you all hearing me now? Alright, Mr. Allen, the entertainer, is hearing me. Okay, so let me repeat all of that. My name is Akil Samuel. This is an Andrew Sport and Entertainment Consultancy production. The name of this two-day series is called I Am Him. Yesterday we had our day one discussion, which was in celebration of Universal Children's Day. And we had two artists on board here. We had Chosen and we had Profess. Chosen being the brand of Trini Love Music and Profess being a local hip-hop artist. And we spoke about music in its respective genres and its effect on the younger and future generation. It was very good. And yes, we had a very good time on hearing that. So if you missed it, you can check on Facebook and Instagram for either of the interviews. Today is day two and the final day of the I Am Him discussion. And it is International Men's Day. So, happy International Men's Day to one and all in Trinidad and Tobago, the region, and the world by extension. So, today's discussion would be on manhood and fatherhood. And we're going to tie in elements of business into that as well, into those two aspects, right? So let me see if I can get my guests in. We shall commence this afternoon's discussion. So first and foremost, apologies for the tardy start. Yes, we have Mr. Allen on the inside. And ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, let me apologize for the late start. No, unlike yesterday.
On the line?
Yeah. Yes, Steve, with your line.
We hearing you. We hearing you.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, unlike yesterday's pickup, where for some strange reason we weren't connecting to the artist, and we had to do almost a 4-hour delay. Today's problem was not me. But I digress, and I will not point fingers and blame anyone.
You should do a Facebook Live because I understand Facebook. I don't understand Instagram at all.
Instagram, for me, is a difficult space to maneuver for me as well.
Yeah.
But I thought this was supposed to be celebrity game face. I don't know what Steven doing here. Any wrong? I was hoping to have, I see Aki just sending something to my doorstep sometime soon for being a part of the discussion. But not that we have Steven here. I understand a different kind of, But good afternoon to Steven. Happy International Men's Day to all men.
Alan, that's too much ugly for one screen, Hold on there, man. I just have to adjust my
Flip your screen. No, flip your screen.
Let me adjust my eye there now, right?
Flip your screen.
Alan, you're big and gray, boss.
Let us see.
You know that, right? There's charcoal dye. Do something now.
It's quite
yeah.
You need my salt and pepper. You need my salt and pepper because you get it without you hiding all yours with your baldness. Yeah. This Akil for. So let's try to take all the man's space now.
Anyway, yes, Akil. Thanks so much for having us.
Indeed.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. I know this would have happened. I knew this would have
Yeah.
happened.
Can't
But
escape that part.
we are here, and so Trinidad and Tobago, the region, and the world by extension, I welcome you. I say God blessings on each and every one of you. And our two guests today, both men and fathers in their own right. One being Mr. Alan Augustine, aka Alan the Entertainer, owner of Million Laughs Productions. And we have Mr. Stephen Edwards, director, producer, movie producer of Stephen Edwards Productions and Caribbean Movies.
Make sure Alan hear that.
Make sure the
Movie.
man put
You
writer
hear that,
again. Make sure writer
Alan?
inside there.
A
Put
movie
writer.
producer.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
And,
So,
pirate. And pirate. Don't forget that part too.
oh my gosh. Hey, so, gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
the discussion today is on part of the I Am Him series. This is day 2. And we are discussing manhood and fatherhood. And we want to add different aspects in terms of health and fitness. And, well, we'll go through the whole scenario. So that's basically the two questions that we will be focusing on here. On manhood, what manhood means to you as individuals, what fatherhood means to you all, and what are some of the things you would like to see current and younger generations apply in both manhood and fatherhood, right? I'm not a father, per se, not per se. I'm not a father. However, I see myself, or well, I've been told, I am a father. So I'm wrong, Stephen?
It look like I stick him.
Akil, you need to you see that side of the screen there? You see it, so? Just ignore it. You gotta push it back a little bit.
What trouble is this?
No, but it convinced on it looked like it was sticking there.
No, I wasn't
Uh,
convinced.
There's something wrong with
I see the sweat still bubbling up on your head. It's like I wasn't
I
convinced.
am being serious. I
all
need
right.
right? So, Mr. Allen, I will leave the floor to you to introduce yourself, and then I'll pass it over to Stephen. And as I ask the question, feel free to answer it as however you see fit. Right? So, Mr. Allen, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself.
Nice. Thanks again for having me, Alan Augustine, aka Alan the Entertainer. Um, yes, I'm a father and a businessman as well. And in terms of the question, and again, for most of you who don't know, I do stand up. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm an MC. I do entertainment. I'm also an actor. But I hold strongly to the more business side of it, and I'm kind of like veering off into doing more promotions and handling, the promotional sides of doing productions and stuff. Because there's a growing need for it for comedy, especially. At least that's my genre. Um, Coming back to the question at hand in terms of manhood, it was a delightful conversation, which I really obliged to us for taking up with Akil, because I think, for most individuals out there, um, there seems to sometimes be a kind of gray area with manhood, and the gray area sometimes seems to be coming from a born man, and as you become a man, society would have put certain things on you that will actually have you, that creates this hallmark. This is the hallmark of a man. And I dare say, it you had to be careful not to be stigmatized with these things. Like, for instance, you don't have no children, he's not a man yet. You never have a house, he's not a man yet. You don't do this, he's not a man yet. You understand? I want people to understand sometimes in life, manhood is about the decisions you make. And I want to believe if you decide to have children, then you know that comes with the package. And as a man, you decide to stand for what you've decided upon and follow through. If you decided that you're going to study and go and have a career as a lawyer, and this is what I think is really about how you stand based on the decisions you would have made and not allow the vicissitudes of life to throw you off. Every strange wind that blows, you go on contrary, you dip. You understand? So once you've made a decision as a man and knowing that it is contributing to something or it's going to build to something down the road or build to a future where you can comfortably I have accomplished this. In your own sphere, you are a man and have exuded manhood. As a boy, you thought as a boy, but as a man, you put away boyish or childish things. And so, in terms of understanding how to maneuver through the different aspects of life and make proper, strong, sound decisions, and knowing how to combine those decisions, and then following through on what you yourself had planned as a man or a young man to do, it makes you or it helps you become the man. Because manhood is I'm over 40. I probably just I look younger than Stephen. I know I look younger than Stephen, but in my 40 plus years of living, I realized one thing. When it comes to being a man, pal, you had to always find yourself being a man in the moment. Because in one moment you're gone. You could actually make a decision and go in a different direction. It's how do you know find the balance and that to make the right decisions when you're depressed. I mean, we go talk about that later on, but I don't want to take up too much time because I want to give Stephen some time to flow on the topic.
Yeah. That was a monologue.
Yeah, it was. But go ahead.
All right. Okay, so my name is Stephen Edwards. I am a movie, theater, and television producer, director, actor, writer, voiceover artist. Also, very similar, but not similar to Alan, but like Alan, I'm a businessman as well. And in terms of, and Alan, I would like you to jump in even, when we talking, that we can kind of contribute to each other. But I like, when people talk about manhood, I think manhood is really connected to your purpose,
Correct.
I believe that as a man, you have to know what your purpose is in this life, and that really separates you from, a boy, and there are certain traits that a man has that society now has deemed almost as irrelevant, because now we just monetize everything. So if a man has money, he's a man. Long time, right? And since I am the eldest here, long time, when a man had money, but he got it by illegal means, that was something to be frowned upon.
Yeah.
Right? You used to have to make that money honestly. If you was a businessman and people would applaud you for being an astute businessman. But if you're a smart man and nobody highlighted that. That's not the case anymore. And I'm a Christian, so that's public knowledge. And even within the church, that is something that has now pervaded the church.
So you
hear, Christian women talking about, well, you're supposed to be a provider, and whatever you have to do to provide, right? Now, that's becoming the thing. Now, there are a lot of opportunities out there. I could have been in a much better financial situation had I wanted to compromise or had I made the decision to compromise. But for plenty of people, you're not a man because you're not where society says where you're
Yeah.
supposed to be by any means necessary. And I look at it as the opposite because when I watch, right, everybody is talk about Adam because he ate the food that his wife gave. But nobody tells the story of the man who decides not to eat that fruit. His life is living hell. And nobody talks about, you know, Akira, and this is a very crass statement, but I think as today's International Men's Day, we're talking about two men, you know, you become a jackass until the day you decide to become an asshole. And, it might be a crass statement, but it's true. Because as long as you would allow certain things to continue to happen, I watch men have now lost the place in their home. A man can't talk to his children. He have no say in how his children are being raised anymore with the values that he would want to instill. Now, in Eastern cultures and in African cultures, that's not so. When an African introduces himself, he says his name, son of.
Correct.
You understand? But we lost that. We lost that son of. And it's only as I became older, I realized how terrible a son I was, right? Because I live enough now to be a taken for granted father. And people don't understand that, all this work, all this sacrifice that you're doing for your children and for, your loved ones. Sometimes you're fighting a deep depression and nobody knows.
Correct.
But you continue to move on as the man. Sometimes you're expecting something to work out and it doesn't work out the way that you do. And the whole world, including those around you, come on you like a ton. And it's like, you know what? You say this and you say that and the other. And sometimes, yes, there are things that you can't control. But the things that you do control, like your integrity, like your honesty, your transparency, I want to encourage men to take hold of those choices today. I mean, I really was trying to make this as light as possible, but we mightn't have a chance again because really and truly now, this thing called toxic masculinity, right?
I was not going to touch on that. Not going to touch on that, but correct.
Yeah, understand? I mean, this thing they call toxic masculinity, it's just what a man's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to take charge. You're supposed to be the head of your home, right? And these things, and that is how God designed it. But all of a sudden, we have these slogans now. I'll hand over to Alan in a little while. But I want to show you us something as men, right? We know Snow White, we know Cinderella, we know Ariel, we know, give me another Disney princess again, Rapunzel, right? We know all of them names, right? We know all what they look like. You notice Prince Charming have no real features. Prince Charming have no real features, and in all the stories he name is Prince Charming. He have no real name. He have no real features. So you gotta look at women now are built with these stories in mind. And you're supposed to be this Prince Charming to them. But when you watch this story, Prince Charming never had to work a day in his life. Prince Charming never had a job. Prince Charming never had to balance home life and that kind of stuff. And they live happily ever after because that part of the story really isn't important. And it's time we start taking stock of that part of the story.
Yeah. You gotta change that narrative.
You know, so I'll hand over to Alan now.
No, I'll leave quiet just guys. And I think you spoke, you shared a lot in terms of so many things that would have been in my mind as well, and especially with that toxic masculinity. And we have to be.
Yeah,
I oftentimes say there are some things that comes into this space that we have to understand as back against, no matter what. You have to push
yes,
it back, or
yes,
at least lean in some more, because if we allow it to kill our voice, you are killing our generations. You
yeah,
understand? You
yeah,
are killing generations. Because I would tell something with my children, I would tell them, I said, listen, you have to allow me to be heavy with them. They need my weight in life. Because as a man, if I put my weight on them and they handle my weight, it will prepare them to handle the weight of life. So a man's weight is necessary. Now, it's not to put pressure on them to kill them, but to put
yeah,
enough weight for them to tell them, this is what you're going outside there to face.
yeah,
And if I don't get that opportunity to give them this, I would have, anytime I'm correcting my children, the first thing I tell them, I say, I correcting you. You know what I'm correcting them for? I'm getting you for life. So I'm not correcting them for now, I'm correcting them for down the road. Most important. And when I actually hammer it in, what am I correcting you for? So the weight of the father, the weight of manhood comes in on both male and female, because a woman now is going to understand the importance of a male role and the weight he's
yeah,
supposed to carry and the burden he's supposed to carry and how he carries himself. So once she can acclimate or acclimatize herself to that from a father figure, it gets her prepared now to look for the right mate to take her
exactly.
through her life. But
Yeah,
sometimes because you soften the man arms fold, he lips folded, fingers on lips, and the girl has no identity now to which she could compare a man to
exactly.
that will
Because
carry, because life
you
will
see,
do things
and
there.
one of the things that we're not realizing is men are starting to get very, very quiet. Eh?
Yes,
Men are
and
starting
that's
to get
dangerous.
very
And that is
because
dangerous.
you see the alternative is that you start to reel up and get up, right? And when that happens now, the whole house in havoc. You see how daddy getting on. You
Mm-hmm.
see how
You see
you
big bad
understand.
wolf.
Now
You see
that
big bad wolf
situation
now.
is exactly so. Now he now decide, okay, I will stop talking. All right.
Yeah,
But what
yeah.
happens to his children? Happens to his boys? They are now not prepared for life because they
Correct.
continue to remain boys and they don't understand that. Hey, listen, what daddy may hear, right? Only a man could prepare a man for life
Correct.
because there's a thing about men, right? Just being in the company of men. Men hold each other accountable.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that women don't face. A woman will be in a marriage and she decide to do something and don't apologize or whatever the case might be, right? And for a man, he will let it slide. He, but that can't be the case for a man. A man has to be accountable at all times. There are things that a
Mm-hmm.
man have to do. And if he doesn't do it, he is held accountable. And that you live that life of accountability just by being around your peers. Nah, brother, nah, you can't do that. We hold each other accountable. That is something that women don't live with, so they
Correct.
don't understand that.
Correct.
You understand? Another thing that you see happening now is men don't really compete with each other. We'll compete with each other in sports and that kind of stuff. But in life, right? We don't really generally compete with each other. But you see now that is again something that is stemming from the female aspect of society.
This is part, excuse me, but the
Yeah,
competitive
but
part of that's a part of man's construct. That
Yeah.
competitiveness
yeah,
is a part of a man's construct. That no matter what you do, it is ingrained in us to have this edge, this competitive edge that we need. Is ego. It comes out of that space of ego, and some
yeah,
people will tell you that your ego to this and your ego. And I'm like, the ego is what the man has to live. It comes like if you
Yeah.
castrate a lion or you castrate a bull, there's nothing for that bull to do again. And
Yeah.
if you take a man's ego out of him or take it away from him, there's nothing to live for. There's absolutely nothing for him to do again. So that as much as we give this ego aspect or the connotation of an ego that evil or that is seen as something as an evil, it is a good for a man. That is the man.
Yeah.
That is the man's joy. That is the man's space to prove to himself and to others that he can rise to the occasion. He
Exactly.
needs that, and that's why I
Right.
said women need to understand when it comes to a man. Like a day like today, I was at church today, and it's only when it happens you realize how much you would miss it. When the pastor's wife said she wants all men to stand up, and she asked people to make, show some appreciation and love for the men. And while they were making all this resounding noise for the men, it felt so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that one moment, it felt so uplifting that you then realize, but wait, me hear this for a while.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
feel this way for a minute.
Yeah.
Between fathers, they are no one last we get an
Ex-
applause.
ex- and, and that's it.
An
And that's it.
applause.
And the thing is like men continue to go on without complaining. A
Correct.
man would work hard and he wouldn't say nothing, right? And he will just continue to work hard. Sometimes, and I've learned later now in life, all work works, right? It either works on you or for you, but all work works.
It does.
But sometimes when you are not getting to where you want to be, and in your estimation, it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a situation that you really want to be in. And you look around and you see how people look at you because you're not where one
This
day anticipate that you're
society will,
supposed to
yeah.
be,
And
or
society
where
dictates.
you yourself said that you would have been. But
Mm-hmm.
this is life. This is life. Life is hard. And sometimes it's important. Like, I realize there have been a lot of delays in my life, when it comes to business lately. And I get a group of men to come and pray, and that's
Mm.
how men supposed to be. Not this kind of individualism that we start
Yeah.
living with
Yeah.
really came from a kind of,
Social media.
not just social media, but I would say it came from a kind of weird kind of competition that women like, want to put aside, you had to prove you're a man to me, so you had to have the best this and you had to have the best that. Now, we compete on a different way. As a
Correct.
man, we compete in a collection, in a collective group, but we all still really regard each other. It's not really the way that I see women. So women who are friends, right, will come in a room and look at another one's shoes and say, you see she shoes? God, look at her. She leave the house with that. A man won't do that. You understand? Those are things that men don't do.
As a matter of fact, I'm not double down on what you're saying. And again, in a room where men would see that, the only time I will comment about your shoe or your clothes is if I feel threatened by you physically. If you said something to me that crossed the
Exactly.
line of respect,
Exactly.
we're going to meet you there. Again,
Yeah.
because of that competitive nature. You understand?
Correct. Correct.
Because of that natural instinct to stand your ground. But it's a
Exactly.
different atmosphere with women. And
Yeah.
like you rightfully say, I experienced some time ago, like how you said you call men to pray. As a man, I would have experienced certain things, and I am in depression, and no one around me is aware of it. And I
Right.
oftentimes say a man will scream in a crowded room and no one hears him.
No one hears.
one
No
hears when a man
one
is
hears.
screaming in a crowded room because it is so ignored. It's so easy to
Exactly.
ignore and walk past somebody who's drowning. You're begging
Yeah.
for help, and the person is being ignored. And in my experience, I said when I talked to my daughter at the time, I had a discussion with her, and it's something that I said earlier, Stephen. And I said to her, I said, no one really asked me how you doing, Dad? How you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you today? What
Yeah.
you don't know. I said, and because I do not exude that something is wrong, because I have to live life every day fighting off all that is wrong and keep presenting to you a positive front.
Yeah.
It was going to be all right front. And in your mind, you still screaming, how the hell I getting through this? Or how we
How I
fixing this?
making this? Yeah.
And like I said, so as a man, when it comes to manhood, is how do you now stand? Because you don't want to go and do the wrong thing to
Exactly.
get to get by. You want to
Exactly.
be you want your name to live. I said, you make sure your name live longer than you, and it's by the
Yeah.
decisions you make, and that is what you want. So how do you now protect your legacy, protect your family from the same ills that you went through? You understand? And still keep marching forward with that positive front that they would never feel as though you was ever under pressure. And that to me is as an aspect of manhood that has gone silent, unappreciative, and like I said today when we got the applause for all men, I then realized how much this has been missed.
Well, here's the thing. And to answer your question, I mean, what I have recently done is really start getting help. And I,
Yes.
I, I, I tell people, right? We, especially people, men who are Christian men, right? We need to understand that there are different segments in our life, and not everybody is an expert in every other thing. So,
Yeah.
especially as we have a pastor, we want to tell the pastor everything, right? Now, when it comes to finances, if your pastor is not a business person
Correct.
or hasn't reached the place where you want to be financially, that is not the person to
To
talk
talk
to
to.
about finances.
Correct.
You understand?
Correct. Correct.
We have another thing where, we try to put spiritual plasters on emotional sores. That is why we have a therapist. Because I have been to therapy, and I'm telling you, the things that I would
Same
have
here.
learned in therapy, it was totally mind-blowing, and it's things that I've never heard in church. But we now have our pastors as a all-round specialist for everything in our life. And that is
Correct.
like, that's like saying, okay, Nicki Minaj going on tour and her hairstylist doing her accounts. You understand? It sounds silly, but that's what we usually doing. The other
Correct.
thing is that we had to be in a community. Find a community of men that you could say, hey, listen, we have these certain goals and so on in common, and let us move together. Because there has to be a place for men to be able to say exactly what they feel. That
Yes.
community is really, really
Yeah.
important. Again, in certain African cultures, all the men will get up very early in the morning and go to a site to talk and plan, and then come to the women. Because the man was saying, the people saying is that when you start talking to the woman, they start bickering and they start talking. And this is not me bashing women. Women are women and men are men. That's why we're different, right? We are built in a particular different way, and that's fine. We are designed that way to be different. But in order for men to start preserving themselves, it's very important that they have a safe space to talk.
Correct.
Because if you don't have a place where you could talk about what you're going through and you continue to suffer in silence, then when you hear somebody takes their life, it's like, oh,
I
good, you hear this
never
man
know.
taking.
I
I
never
didn't
know.
never know, and
Never
I
know.
just see he just the other
Exactly.
day, boy,
Never
and he and
know.
I talk, you know, and yeah, but he and you talk, but you ask him how he going,
Yeah.
how he really going, you understand?
If you, and
So
Mhm.
there's a
if you're
lot of
willing to
stuff
hear
that we
stories,
have to do as men that we have to put in
yeah.
place and stop, you know, I mean, stop putting the wrong, taking the wrong medicine for the wrong sickness.
Correct.
Understand? When it comes to finances, I will tell anybody, get a business coach. Now that I have a business coach, I realize how much years I would have saved had I gotten the right advice, had I gotten the right approach for certain things. Right? Now that I
Correct.
have a therapist, I realize how much damage was done to me and how much damage I have done to persons because of certain traits and things that happen to me. And those are important things. The thing about it is that we invest in everything else. We invest in education, but we're not sure if we're going to get a job at the end of the day. But you have to live with yourself every single day, and you're not making the investments in those things. As a man, you have to invest in yourself, not just career-wise. That's one aspect. But the other aspects of your life, you have to invest in it because that makes up who you are.
I see,
You
actually,
know?
yeah, I know we also talk about health and wellness.
Oh no no
But
no
there's
no
some
no.
question.
This is going good so far. I just want to say if anyone in the audience has any questions to ask pertaining the subject, you can do so. I see Zizi Poo has her hand up. I don't know if she has a question. If she has a question, so but if you feel free to post your questions in the comments, and we can move forward from there.
Nice.
So, guys,
Yeah.
you touched on some very important points. So, Ms. Zizipu, if you have a question, I'm seeing your hand raised. If you have a question, feel free to put your questions in the comments, and we will get to it. So, guys, this is an Andrew Sport and Entertainment Consultancy production. I am him. Day 2, where we are discussing manhood and fatherhood on this day on International Men's Day. So, gentlemen, we touched on many things pertaining to manhood, and which is very good, and I like where the conversation is going. So let us talk about something. You touched on something with the therapy, and you're not seeing the person again, and that is something I realize as men we are not encouraged to do. Yes, it's an option, but something being an option and something being encouraged, realistically encouraged, is two different things.
Yeah.
So let's talk about health, whether it be mental health, emotional health, and physical health. As a man and as fathers, how important is that? I'll ask Stephen to go first.
Well, physical health is very, very important. I mean, I recently found, like right now, I am trying to put on 2 inches, right? Um, because I recently found out that every 10 pounds that you lose a belly fat, right, you get an inch more in girth and length. So, so, so on a quest right now to put on 2 inches. But on a serious
Ah!
note, on a serious note, health is real important, and it's not just your ability to move, but your quality of life.
Correct.
I'm a big believer in a lot of bush tea and things like that, minerals and that kind of stuff. And even if I do get the cold, it's never to the point where I am, incapacitated. But in terms of like, I have put on a lot of weight over the years, and it's not really eating; it's just a lack of sleep. Believe it or not, when I was younger, I used to eat a lot more than I eat now.
Yep,
But
exactly.
I have not been sleeping properly for years. For years, I would be operating on 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And that has contributed a great deal to a lot of my weight. And so even now, I mean, I at this point in time in my life, I had to take breaks. And this like, I mean, between the hours of 1 to 2, I'll take a nap. I'm fortunate enough that, my lifestyle is such that I could take a rest during the day. But I have to do that now. Otherwise, I mean, I won't be here. You understand? And at the end of the day, I have a son who's 21. I have a son who's 17. I want to be able to see them get married. I want to be able to hold my grandchildren. Whenever they do see this, I don't mean tomorrow or anytime in the immediate future, but I want to be able to experience those things, and so health is very, very important. So right now, I even the amount of sugar that I intake, I'm looking at that, exercising every day, and just even if it's just the minimum, those are the things that I'm putting in place. I mean, a long time ago, it was more for vanity and that kind of stuff. You want the body to look good, but now it is a part of, you want to live the best quality life possible. And there are a lot of things that I still want to accomplish. And so, just simple things like eating the right foods, taking proper rest, even having the right minerals, things like magnesium and that kind of stuff. These things we don't know about. Like, I would get up with my stomach burning every 4 o'clock in the morning. And then it was on a TikTok video I came to realize that because I'm not taking enough magnesium. So all of those things we have to start educating men on. But the thing about it is like that information is not always out there and is not always like, available in the places that we just need to be talking.
Correct.
Good point, Stephen. So, Mr. Allen, you can give the question now.
Yeah, I fully agree with Stephen there. I know when you're younger, you take life for granted. You
Yes.
understand? You think you're living forever, and so
Yeah.
your body done. I mean, I was at a point in time in my life where listen, me, I no belly, I eating, and my metabolism burning that up, zip, zap, zoop. You understand?
Yeah.
I could have
Exactly.
sit down from here. I can stop in my yard and watch a hawk in the sky, eyeball to eyeball. I see him straight. You
Yeah.
understand? When it's
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I said, nature watching the watch on the phone like something wrong with the phone. That time your
Mm.
eyes no longer
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
You understand? You need glasses now. You understand? So your life, you're going to find that your health is degenerated. I mean, you still could prolong that or prolong good health if you start to apply simple basic principles of health. Your young you must take care of the old you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Young you takes care
Yeah.
of the old you. And however old you want to be, you have to make sure put in the young you now what it is you want to get out of the old you. And as I say, it's much more about mobility. But like for women who probably would be looking online too, you gotta understand that women, their body degenerate faster than men. So it's important as well that as men, we help our women to seek physical health as well, to get physically healthy and stuff to maintain. If you want your wife to live long enough with you and enjoy life, both of you need to have a regime. You could actually start to work together in terms of workouts and whatever the case. I'm in a gym and I started going at least 3 days a week. Now, if you ask me if I love the gym, I hate it. I don't like the gym. I tell my gym instructor, I say, if you like enjoy coming, I don't enjoy coming here. I come here because I'm under instruction. You tell me come 3 times a
Yeah.
week. This is what I have to do. So I give my health from that side of I give that side of my health over to somebody else to take care of, and I follow
Yeah.
instructions. And sometimes, like you
Yeah.
say, you need that type of mentorship to make sure and keep you going in the right direction. So
Yeah.
I like what Stephen's saying in terms of the therapist and then having a business coach. We need mentoring in every aspect of the world, and your health is something. And I have this scare. The scare is you work so hard to make all the money, and you ignore your health. Then you make the money, and you have to spend all your money back on the health because you
Exactly.
don't have the health for your wealth. You understand what I'm saying? So it's counterproductive. So you have to be, while you're working on your wealth, work on your health. You can't cater for one and forget the other. You have to try and all a rising tide raises all ship. I don't think holistically about the whole you, and the health side of your health is part of it. Your mental health now is, to me, the most important factor to focus on when it comes to keeping everything. I mean, there's this spiritual man, and I'm not taking anything away from the spiritual man, because I believe that we ought to pay attention to our spiritual life as well. Vitally important. Yeah. But there's something about your mind. You see, your mentality. If you don't feed your mind,
exactly.
If you don't feed your mind is losing stuff.
Yeah.
It come like if you don't.
And anything left to itself, right, will just get worse.
Yeah, it atrophies. Your mind atrophies.
Low entropy.
Yeah. It atrophies because you're not putting stuff in. So therefore, when you're done, you find yourself lost. You're in a dirt of information. You have nothing there. So now it starts to atrophize. Like a muscle, if you don't use it, you lose it. And your mind, that mental muscle, needs feeding as often as, even if you don't use the information, put the information in.
Yeah.
Because one day it will come to the rescue. You understand? So
and
your mental
health I real agree with that. Like for instance, for me, Alan, like you know, it's important to be around the right people.
Correct.
People don't understand how important the environment is.
Yep.
And people could have your best interest at heart and still give you advice that is not for you.
Correct.
Yeah. You understand?
Yeah.
And everybody have a different purpose. So what might work for you, the person giving you genuine information and genuine information from, and they really care about you. And I always give this example. You know, in the story of Joseph in the Bible, nobody loved Joseph more than his father, right?
Right.
Nobody loved Joseph more than his father. When Joseph gave him this beautiful coat, and when Joseph had his dream and he came to his father, right, and told him his dream, his father said, "What kind of dream is that you have having? That we will bow down to you?" And this is Joseph just sharing his dream because it's like he is, you know, excited. This is my father, so I will tell him. You understand? And sometimes we have to be very careful about the environment that we put ourselves in. So it's important that you be in the right environment. The other thing is, it's important that you feed your mind. You know, I mean, again, shameless plug. Myron Golan is one of those guys that I have found that is really good for me.
I follow him as well, you know.
Yeah.
You won't believe, I follow him. I tell my daughter, follow him.
I will send you a link. I did the challenge, and I did that challenge, and that changed my life.
Okay.
And that changed my life. When you're talking about wealth, I saw people make $10 million in a day. That does something to you. That puts in an environment and a space that you understand that, hey, this world is abundant. So I listen to something positive every single day. Every day. I read my Bible every day. Praying every day. And I start trying to learn scriptures now. Because on different topics that I want, because I want to remember those things that God said. You understand? Those are really, really important steps that you can do that will save you mentally. Because listen, I have had disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Like disappointment sandwiches. And sometimes people just watch me and say is like, you know, but you ain't feeling nothing. No, I am. But I understand that, this is temporary. And if I look to take this on, what would worry? How would worry improve the situation? It can't. And therefore, you have to build your mind that you don't go into a depression. That you see that okay, this is a temporary, because sometimes you're trying things and it just don't work. You know how much times I do a show and it bust.
Correct.
The show bust and you still have people to pay.
I'm not sure you cancel. Cancel. You tell yourself you go work, and then according to Uncle Errol Fabian, we just have the good ideas. And inside here, you see a good picture. When you bring it to the table for people, everybody like, the thing go work. And you get shut down.
Yeah.
And you had to pick up the pieces and go again. I mean, shut down after shut down, and I had 2 cancer shows.
And these things people don't understand. People don't understand. Sometimes you put out your money and you don't get it back.
Yes.
And people looking at you and it's like, if I had it, you know what I mean? If I had it, I would have given it.
Exactly.
But right now, I had to find it. And
I don't have it.
For me, there are certain things that I find that as a man that really helps. One is to be reliable. If you see you're going to do something, make sure and sure that you can help. If it is you don't show up, let it be for that you're half dead or you're dead. And the only 2 reasons that you don't show up. Be accountable. The things that you're supposed to do it to the ability that it needs to what is required. Because plenty times we just say we doing our best, right? And really, listen, we doing our best, and sometimes our best is not what is required to get the situation done, right? But we do our best, but that it requires more. So be accountable, because we have to tell ourselves, hey, listen, I need to be accountable for this, right? And so there's a lot of other things. Be transparent. Even if it is you don't have somebody money, don't duck the call.
Yeah, take the call. Say, I don't have it.
Take the call. Hey, listen, be honest, have integrity. And those simple things are what makes up a man. You're not always going to be able to deliver, and that is life. Life is full of disappointment. But do the things that are necessary, even in the midst of disappointment, to ensure that your name's still good as the best of your ability. And one of the things that I learned to do recently is that I don't give answers. I don't rush to give an answer anymore. I don't rush to say, yeah, well, you'll get at this time, or you'll get at this time. Because I don't know. I really don't know. And especially doing business in Trinidad, you're never too sure of how soon or how things will happen.
And that's part of integrity as well. And that's part of integrity as well. I'm sure that you have integrity, because say, the Bible tell you, it's better that you don't give your word than to give a word and not fulfill it. You understand? You understand? So that's part of integrity as well. Yeah.
So, Alan and Mr. Stephen, this is I and Him, part 2 on manhood, on fatherhood. This is an Andrew Sport and Entertainment Consultancy production. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the end. We have a few more questions remaining. We have 2 more questions remaining, because if we stay here, we will talk. We will talk till we battery dead.
We could talk. We could talk. Whoever leave 2 actors in a room, they could talk.
Correct is right.
Right. So I have 2 more questions for you, gentlemen. You talked about mental health and physical health as the last question. Me being a martial artist, I encourage parents to get their child involved in an activity that tests their mentality and their physicality.
Oh boy.
especially when it comes to boys. Especially when it comes to boys. Not 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 saying anything about women that girls don't need it, but when it comes to physicality, I do believe that is something a boy should do. And not me being a karateka or a martial artist, meaning you have to do the karate for more. You have to join my dojo or my school. I don't believe in that. As fathers and as men, do you see what are the benefits you see in boys, men, your children, whether it's male or female, learning a martial art or learning a combat art form? Alan, you first.
Combat itself, I'm a lover, not a fighter, so I'm not sure about the combat thing. But in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the
That's right.
physicality, I know, but in terms of the physicality of when it comes to training and the discipline, because I think what you're really trying with these type of activities, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just karate or kung fu. Anything that instills discipline, self-control, understanding the importance of self-control, also understanding the importance of team. It helps develop the child's mind. I think because of this space that we are in this virtual space, there are a lot of, I mean, contact sports is beginning to wane. Physical contact is beginning to wane. Football used to be a space where you had 10,000 men on the field to play football.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're scrambling to get two sides on a field. A
Mm-hmm.
complement of 21 fellas. You're now 22 players. You're scrambling to get that because now everybody shift to the online space and everything here. And to me, it softens you. I was listening to this guy speak, Daniel Goleman, and he wrote the book on emotional intelligence, and he was saying that if you had a group of boys on the field playing a game, he was drawing an analogy of a group of boys playing on a field, and one boy damages his leg, right? The other boys will say, "Hey, change this player quickly. Come off the field. Don't slow down the game. Change the player," right? So in a hurry, they change the player, right? For the same sport, a group of girls, a girl damages her leg, the side that she plays on stop the game. They gather around the girl. The other team, they gather around the girl. They make sure she all right. They help she off the field. Some of them don't cry. All kind of different things. Again, not trivializing or trying to minimize women in sports, but I'm saying the mentality and the attitude is different. And for a man, when he gets damaged and comes off, he's fighting to get back on. He's not even
Mm-hmm.
studying injury anymore. He wants to get rubbed because he wants to get back on. Because it's again, it helps with the development of a man understanding the importance of getting back in the game,
Yeah.
getting back in the fight, getting on with what we're supposed to be getting on with. It grows that child um, intuitively because now he's building that intuition of getting back into the game. I
Right.
said to my kids, I said you all are becoming soft. You need to find a space where you could toughen up, where you could face harsh discipline sometimes, unwarranted, but you're getting disciplined. You're under pressure, but you don't understand. Take the discipline. You understand? My son made a mistake at time and called me, messaged me while school was going on because his teacher was correcting him about something. And I had to tell him, do not call me or message me during school hours unless it's an emergency. Whatever is going on between you and the teacher and the students, man up, face it. When they get
Mm.
home, we will talk about it. Because I have to leave him in that concentration of deal with it. Learn to
Yeah.
deal with
Mm-hmm.
it. Let it come to you and deal with it. Don't run here and expect that I had to run long in school. No. When we were in school, teachers correcting us, we getting licks, we in fight. We didn't talk about that until we get home. There's no
Yeah.
space to, you can't, so I think that it helps. It plays an integral role, Akil, in the development of a child, especially our boy children, to be in a not just a contact space or a space where they could understand the importance of discipline and and knowing how to get through stuff, stick to it, to build tenacity.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
understand? That's
tenacity.
my take on that.
And that's real important. Tenacity is real important. Tenacity is important for life because when the challenges do come, and it will come, and you have to remember, yes, we love our children, but we are preparing them for life. I have to
Correct.
always consider that I will not always be there. I will not
Yeah.
always be there for my children. You know, one day I will leave this earth, and hopefully it will be before them. But I have to instill the things in them that will make them formidable and to do that which they are purposed to do. So for me, it's a little different because I had karate in my life, and one of the things that I would always encourage children or parents to get their children in some kind of fighting sport, because the discipline required for fighting, one, is very good. Two, there can be no peace without the threat of war. And that is something that people really do not look at, right? Men, there's a saying: it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. The reason for that is that as a man, you are required to be a protector. You are required to be that person in the home that everybody looks
Rely on.
up for, looks to. So you have to learn to protect, and I have reached to the point now where even if it is teaching my children how to use firearms, I want them to learn to fight. I also want them to learn spiritual warfare, because all of that is part of it, right? Because you must be able to protect your home. I wouldn't always be there with you, but you and your girlfriend going out or somewhere, and somebody turns around, and even though you had to lose that fight, make it in a way that person remember, even if it's just one good cup you land, that they remember that one good cup.
Yeah.
Because it's that threat of war that brings peace. And it also helps men to be more confrontive and not conniving. Because men who can't fight tend to always try to go behind somebody's back and do something because they don't want that kind of confrontation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be physical fight in this instance. But we are losing a whole generation of men that don't confront anything anymore.
Yeah.
So nobody says, hey, you see what you're doing there? Stop that. We will sit down and we go and we talk behind a man's back, or we will try to do something to get him in trouble, or do something underhanded, right? And that's dangerous for a society, because then you're going to have a lot of men doing a lot of underhanded stuff, right? And they're going to be okay with it because that's the modus operandi. That's the way that we live. So if you don't have men that will check other persons, then you're going to have a situation where you have a lot of backstabbing, and a society cannot grow in that way. A community cannot grow in that way.
No loyalty.
Amen. So, gentlemen, thank you for that final question. We talked on manhood, we touched on fatherhood. Now, we are preparing our children and young persons for the future. And part of preparing them for that future is a future that doesn't exist yet. Right? We don't know what the future holds because we're basing everything on what we know from the past and now. But we can equip them with tools that are necessary to get better and learn how to navigate. So my final question to you. So young men who are fathers, to boys and men who want or need to be fathers, actually need or necessity to be fathers? What are three questions? What are our three pieces of advice? Even current fathers now. What are three pieces of advice you would give them? Alan, you first.
Three pieces, let me see if I get the question right. Three pieces of advice I'd give to young men, young fathers in particular.
For young men, young fathers, boys and men who will potentially become fathers one day, and to current fathers as well. Three pieces of advice.
All right. I think this one I kind of confuse some people, but I'll try and say it as clear as possible. Know where you come from as a man. So when you're teaching your young ones and you're trying to instill certain things in them, you know where you come from, but don't hold on to where you come from. Because your future would require you sometimes to be flexible, right? I'll give an example. When the phones came out, everybody ran down the Motorola, and we had the Nokia, and whatever the case may be. On the advent of the iPhone, Nokia didn't change the game. Nokia wasn't flexible to change. Motorola wasn't flexible to change. And iPhone came and changed the topography in which we saw the phone. Samsung jumped on the bandwagon. And so it was BlackBerry at that point in time. And then iPhone came on the space and changed the game. BlackBerry now was blown out of the market. Samsung came in. By the time
and Samsung wasn't the phone you didn't want. And imagine that you didn't want a Samsung coming up.
Exactly. And remember at the time, everybody had a Nokia before BlackBerry. Yep. Everybody had a Nokia. So you'd expect, because Nokia held on to the past, because they presently was in the game, they didn't see the future, as you rightfully say. And by the time somebody come and present a different future, and them step out of the game, by the time they look to jump in, the market share there was no market for them. So it says that if you're not pliable enough, flexible, you don't know how. So now I'll bring it down to brass tacks now. Your child going to school, as Myron Golden would say, sometimes we create prisons for them when they send them to school.
Exactly.
They send them to school, but tell them the why. Because I tell my children, half the things you're going to learn in school, you're not going to apply and work, They watch me. I just let you know. I said, but what I'm telling you, what you're going to school to do, you're going to show that academically you can apply yourself. You know how to apply yourself. It's access to getting what your passes. It's not to say that what you have on your passes, you will work in that space.
Yep.
So, again, you give them the understanding of the importance of education, not from the standpoint of putting them under the pressure, because my son don't have to be academically educated. He could also be skillfully educated. Yeah. So you're pliable now to say, okay, he's not academically inclined, but he's skillfully inclined. He could do something that could also bring money to him in the future. So you don't have to put the child under the penance of university or this, because he can go there, he's not bright. Every child needs that space to be given that unique understanding, so that when they go into that world, they can understand how to establish the uniqueness. And don't stifle their child. Don't stifle the dream. It might seem weird to you, like my partner here now talking about Joseph and his father. It will seem weird to you, but guess what? Is his dream. Is his dream.
Yeah.
You understand? So you ought to know, look at the dream and try and nurture it. So that's two. And as well, 3, your child is your child. Whether that child good or bad. And your job is to love your child. I tell my sons and my daughters, if you do good, you're my good child. If you do bad, you are my bad child. But you'll always be my child. I hope that it understand the theory, where they would feel not so much, because every child have a bit of bad in them that needs to work it out. You have to chisel it out.
Very much.
All of us have it. You have to chisel
All of
it.
us have it.
We grow up as a big man and we still have the boy inside of us that's still working things out inside of us. And the boy is still becoming mature. So in every child, there's a child when they get older. So you have to now get them to be comfortable enough to understand you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get it wrong. But that is okay. Sometimes the best way to get it right is to get it wrong. So you're not going to kill them or like I said, the punishment must almost fit the crime. You're not going to overkill them because they get things wrong. You give them that sense of flexibility to understand that is life. You're going to get it wrong, but keep on going, you'll eventually get it right. So that's the three levels I would probably give my advice on.
I'll give my answer kind of like in a story. I was speaking with an 81-year-old Jewish man the other day. And he said for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, he gave his grandson a 3D printer. And he told him, the first two things I want you to make from this 3D printer is a kidney and a heart. And he said, God bless him, at 7 years old, the boy was able to print it. Now I want you to look at that boy 20 years from now. The kind of engineer that he would be. He would probably be making artificial kidneys and hearts. So the first thing I would say to any parent is prepare your child for the future by letting them be the ones to bring out the change. We let him be the one to bring the iPhone. You understand? Let him be the one to invent whatever. Put his skills in a position where you're always pushing him or her, right, to be the best at their very God-given talents and be the forerunners, right? The other thing I will say is that, you know, give the opportunity for praise just as long as you give for punishment.
Correct.
Plenty times we will go on. I like how you do this. And you see me? I fed up at you. And you go on for a whole tirade, a whole half an hour, and I'm so disappointed. But when the child does good, hey, I'm real proud of you, that real nice man, and that's it. And what we have taught children is that to basically praise is very short-lived, and therefore whether they do good or bad, it really doesn't make that much a difference. Because we will go on a whole tirade for something that they do bad, but when it's something so that feeling of feeling pride is very, very short-lived. And so I think that as a parent, that is something that you definitely want to watch, especially when your children do well or succeed at something. Just as how you will go down for a whole, if you're going down for a whole hour on that one thing, right? It's either you go down for a whole hour when they do good, or you're short. You know how you're arguing and quarreling and that kind of stuff, or when they do bad. But don't make always the punishment the thing that you're most emphatic on, the thing that you're most on, right? And then when it comes to praise, you know, it's very minimal. And I'd say the last thing is that oh God, I forget my point, and that's a real important point. I don't want to forget. But I think most important is helping children discover their purpose. That is more than going to school more than anything else. That's what we here for on this earth, and we pay sometimes the least importance on it. We do everything. We send our children to school, and plenty times they're doing subjects that have nothing to do with the purpose. Yeah. What are they purpose to do on this earth? You understand? Because when we really look at it and analyze it, right? A man who, you know, and I see a lot of parents do this. They send the children for 7 years to 10 years to become a doctor. You know, it takes absolutely 0 years for you to learn how to become an owner of a hospital. We always looking for our children to be the doctors, never the owners of the hospital. You don't need any medical degree to become an owner of a hospital. Most hospitals that are privately owned aren't owned by doctors, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But there's a difference in the mentality. So we send our children to become employees of a system and never to be the owners of the system. And I would encourage, because I've met now so many, and I see how, you know, I remember there's this other Jewish guy. He brought one of his friends' grandsons in, and he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the boy looked at him with such a smile and said, I want to be a lawyer. He said, don't work to just become a lawyer. Work to own the firm. He showed them downstairs. He said, you see everybody there, all of them are lawyers. And they're working 24/7 for me. I don't have to be around here. And I think there's a big gap in, especially within the Christian community, right? And I'm talking to the Christian community in particular here. For far too long, we always wait for the world to happen to us. We watching their movies, they're not watching ours. We using their phones, we have nothing for them to use. We will eat their food, they're not eating from us. And there's something that is, to me, intrinsically wrong about that. That we as a society, and you know, we as men are satisfied in being the pawns in somebody else's game when we have the power to uproot the game our very selves. But we choose to continue, and we teach that to our children. So the cycle continues. So your child comes and leave med school with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, if they don't have gate or whatever the case might be. But then somebody else's child they're going to work for, who have never passed a medical exam but owns a hospital. There's something intrinsically wrong about that. And I would encourage every father to let their child, if it's a boy, let him be the king of his thing, and if it's a girl, let her be the queen of her scene.
Correct.
Instill that in your children. So, Aki, that's what I thought.
All right. So, gentlemen, I thank you very much for being part of I Am Him, the final day of I Am Him celebration of boyhood and manhood. This is a celebration of both Universal Children's Day and International Men's Day. I thank you very much. Happy over this weekend. Yesterday was music and the entertainment industry where we had chosen and profess, and today we had Mr. Alan the Entertainer and Stephen Edwards. So you can follow them on both Facebook and IG at Million Laughs and at Stephen Edwards Productions. Gentlemen, I thank you very much. And your Sport and Entertainment Consultancy, thank you. Do have a good day.
They can also follow me on Alan
Right.
the Entertainer as well. They usually get follow me on Alan the Entertainer. The company is million last, but Alan the Entertainer is
Follow you at Alan the Entertainer as well. So
that's
this
correct.
is
I just want to make a disclaimer there. Alan the Entertainer is
Go
just
and
a
sleep.
name.
Go and sleep now. Go and
It's
sleep.
not,
Please go and sleep.
it's
There's a
not
way
a
to cut
promise.
this fella off the
Don't
line.
go on the page expecting to be
Is there a way to
entertained.
cut this fella off
It's
the
just
line
a
now,
name.
Akil?
It's just a name.
Get him
It's
off?
just a name. So don't go there with the expectation to be entertained. It's just called Alan the Entertainer. You understand? So don't go there
Akil,
with it. I don't want you to set up.
there's an
I want to
X
be a
over
man
this
of
fella.
integrity, as I
There's an
said.
X over
So I
this
don't want
fella
to set up
box.
your
There's
hopes
an
too high.
X over this fella box, Akil. Go ahead and press it now, please. Let's end without him, please. Please press the
all
X
right. This
over the
is
box
an
now.
Aju Sport and Entertainment Consultancy production. You can follow us at ASEC 5000 on Facebook and IG. So, gentlemen, I thank you very much. Do have a great evening, and God bless. Live is
Thanks so
ending
much for
now.
having us, Aki.
No
It was a
Yeah,
pleasure, bro.
problem.
yeah,
Thanks so
brother.
much.
Easy.